On today's Locked On Senators, 4 top candidates have emerged in the Sens head coaching search.
And we continue with our exit interviews. We've done the goalies, we've done the defensemen. Now, onto the forwards.
We'll get into all that, plus a little Belleville Sens playoff chatter, all coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 1039 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go. It's the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where we say hello and let you know that a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Monday, May 6th, and Pillzy, I'm about to call you Belleville Pillzy. 2 trips to the friendly city, and this time you were front and center on maybe the photo of the night. That was awesome.
Yeah, it certainly was a big moment. I got to be right there for Stephen Halliday's first pro goal, which tied the game up, Ross, sent it to overtime. However, overtime did not go Belleville's way, but a pretty good game for the Belleville Senators. And honestly, Stephen Halliday was the best player on the ice for both teams. He was given the third star of the game with a goal and an assist, but he was better than any Cleveland monster player. And yeah, Ross pulled it up on YouTube. If you see it there, there's Igor and Stephen Halliday, our guys celebrating, and then me in the crowd just absolutely loving it. And yeah, it was a great game, great environment overall. But Ross, man, it would have been nice to head to Cleveland up 2-0.
I know. Instead, they go to Cleveland. They're tied at 1 in the series, best of 3. So it's a best of 3 at this point, right? Like they're each tied at 1, and somebody's got to win 2 out of 3. The only difference is Belleville's got to win 2 out of 3 on the road. So not an easy predicament, but they were, if not as good as Cleveland, maybe slightly the better team. Just didn't get a good bounce in overtime off of Yuri Smeykal right past Matt Sogard, and the series is tied at 1. Pillzy, we still have to wait another couple days. What a long gap between games. Wednesday is game 3 in Cleveland.
Yep, Wednesday's game 3. They're going to the big barn now, Ross. CA Arena. Love that rink, but it doesn't compare in size when you're talking about the barn that the Cleveland Monsters play in. So this is going to be a very interesting switch for Belleville heading on the road here for the next 3 games. Like you mentioned.
A lot of people are saying it's the biggest game in this building in years, even though the Cleveland Cavaliers just hosted and won a game 7 in their first round matchup against the Orlando Magic just yesterday. Although we'll get into Belleville a little bit more later in the week. Glad to hear Stephen Halliday's playing great. Had a goal, and did he have assist as well?
Oh yeah, to open up the scoring. Nice little play to Wyatt Bongiovanni. But Ross,
Yep.
Yeah, Halliday told us Bonjo does this one. Bonjo didn't do that one when he scored, and then we said, all right, when you finally score your first pro goal, Steven, what are you going to do? And he said he's going to do the Bonjo, and neither of them did it. But I mean, Halliday's sally was pretty epic.
I think it's one of those moments where you kind of black out when the puck goes in the net.
Yeah, that's what he told me after. Funny enough, Ross, I bumped into him at the hotel. You'll remember he said he's staying at the hotel. Well, ironically, it was the one I was staying at, and he's across the hall from me. I go to my room, and Halliday is booking it down, trying to get his keys in his wallet so he can head out. I'm like, is that the disher? The disher? So I asked him about the goal celebration. He's like, yeah, man, I just blacked out there and just did what felt right. And I was like, no, that's all good. It was still a sick celly and a great moment. But yeah, unfortunate that they're not able to pull through in overtime. But it's by no means, Ross, am I panicked or worried or anything. The Belleville Senators are still in good shape, and I'm fired up for Wednesday's game.
Are you worried or panicked at the short list that Bruce Garriock said after talking to league sources? It sounds like the Senators' head coaching search down to 4 names: Craig Berube, Dean Evason, Todd McLellan, and Travis Green.
Now, it's important to note, Ross, in Bruce's article, he did mention that he hasn't been able to confirm that the Senators have talked to Berube. That's a little concerning. You asked if I was concerned. That concerns me that there hasn't been a confirmed meeting between them. He did say that he knows that the Sens have met with Travis Green. So take that with what you will. And then I'm pretty sure he mentioned they had met with Todd McLellan as well. And then Dean Evason, I don't think he reported whether they had met or not.
I'm looking at the odds, and he's still plus 6,000 for Travis Green. Craig Berube is the favorite outside of John Gruden, who I feel like bookies are just trying to make their money on, because it doesn't even sound like, outside of like going into the process,
he was the lead horse that fell out of the race.
Right. Like nobody heard his name come up in the actual process once the season ended. It was more just like the narrative of connections, baby. It's all about who you know, not what you know, Pillzy. But these names signal to me one thing. They're not going bargain bin hunting. All these guys, even I know Travis Green hasn't had the most success in the NHL, they're all experienced NHL head coaches.
Yeah, and that's what you want, right? You want experience, and they're trying to find a coach that can hold these guys accountable. But the issue is, Ross, so are all the other teams that are looking for head coaches. Like, it doesn't really seem, I feel like we had that wave in the late 2010s and early 2020s where teams were like, we got to stop this carousel of the old boys club coaching. Let's go to some interesting college coaches that have new, fresh ideas and know how to connect with the young players, right? Like, it seemed like there was that era where that's what teams were doing. They were trying to zig when other teams were zagging. And I think those teams are now looking and like thinking maybe that wasn't the best choice. Now, mind you, some of those new coaching hires have worked out and are still coaching. But I think the philosophy of trying to get a fresh new coach has kind of fallen by the wayside here.
Now it seems like the biggest thing is accountability across the board. Teams want to kind of not a drill sergeant as we used to hear in the Mike Keenan era, but of guys who, aren't going to be as much buddy. And it's going to be a lot of, making sure that guys are held to the highest standard of what they do and allow us to get to a point where the Senators can accomplish something that watching playoffs, like it sucks. And especially I know that Sens fans were lucky for so many years. I was telling my wife yesterday, like from the age of 5 to like 16, the Senators made the playoffs every single year. Like it was just guaranteed.
Or at the very least every other year, right? There's that little stretch of time where they were making it every other year.
Yeah, it was from 1997 to 2010, every single year. And then they went 2012, 13, 15, 17 in the playoffs. And then, we're going on 7 straight years without playoff hockey for the Ottawa Senators. So whichever one of these coaches gets hired, I would like them to please get the Ottawa Senators back to the playoffs, and I would like them to do it quickly.
Ross.
If we look at career coaching records of these 4, Dean Evason with the highest points percentage, 639 points percentage in the regular season. And from a content perspective, we could get the Office memes out, because if you haven't seen Dean Evason, he could play Creed in an episode, and I don't think anybody would notice the difference.
And that would be a very Creed-like move to have a replacement play his part too.
Exactly. So Dean Evason, 639 points percentage. He's the least experienced of these four coaches, and yet he still has 147 wins. Like, that's where it's getting to a point where I'm happy that these are the four candidates. Now, do I want it to be Travis Green? No, he's my fourth candidate by a long shot. He's also got the lowest points percentage, hasn't had much success, only coached in the playoffs during the bubble when Demko went off there in Vancouver when he was there. Berube and Todd McLellan are both separated just barely in points percentage, 584 to 581. Dude, Todd McLellan is 2 wins away from 600 in his career. Like, that's the one where if you just want experience, you want a guy who's been there, done that, Todd McLellan would be probably the choice. But hey, if they go with McLellan, if they go with Evason, if they go with Berube, I'll be happy with whichever one of those choices are given.
Ross, I almost made a declaring guarantee. I'm glad I didn't fully interject and I let you finish there, so I'll cool down. I was going to guarantee the next coach would bring the Sens to the playoffs, but I'll say I think it's likely that will happen. Hopeful that will happen. And there's a lot of Sens fans on Twitter, like for Todd McLellan, when we talked about him, people pulled up his playoff records and were like, nope, don't want this guy. Like, he couldn't get the Sharks, the Oilers, or the Kings over the hump. No Stanley Cups. What a bum. Don't want him. Yeah, the Ottawa Senators haven't made the playoffs in 7 years. I'd be stoked to have a coach that gets them to round one and can't get over the hump. Like, that would be great. To get to the hump would be awesome, let alone getting over it. So I'm not worried about looking at, coaches that haven't won the cup. Like, we're not there yet. We're trying to play in meaningful games and then maybe get to the playoffs. So let's cool it on all the championship pedigree expectations for this head coach.
Pillzy, what happens first? Shane Pinto contract or Sens head coaching announcement?
Now, are you asking what I think will happen first or what I want to happen first?
What you think?
I mean, it's kind of crazy the Pinto contract hasn't been done yet. Like that.
It's beyond crazy.
Yeah. So you know what? I'm going to go with the Pinto contract just because that feels like something that there should already be a contract in the drawer and you just got to maybe change one of the numbers or change the years or something. Like, it should already be pretty much ready to go. But Ross, it's also concerning that the Senators are still looking for a head coach when there's like 5 other teams that are still doing that. And eventually there's 4 candidates you talked about, but they're going to get plucked off one by one here if the Sens don't pick one soon. And you don't want to be sitting at the end of the musical chairs coaching carousel with no chairs left. And you're like, crap, let's go call John Gruden and see what he's up to.
Oh, no. Well, what I can say is the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs are over, so things are intensifying around the coaching search. Shout out to Bruce Garriock for his latest article as well. On the other side, back to our exit interviews. We're going to do Brady, Tkachuk, and Shane Pinto today. And also, I don't know if anybody saw over the weekend, but the Toronto Maple Leafs lost Game 7 in embarrassing fashion. Maybe embarrassing fashion is a bit of a stretch, but it was embarrassing if you're in the Leaf pile. All that next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and even level it up so it can perform at peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. It's that simple. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need, but at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends at Shawarma Palace. Shawarma Palace is the place to go in Ottawa when you are hungry for anything. It's got the freshest ingredients. They know what they're doing. They started with one store back in 1997, and now look at them. They are all over the city and also available for delivery exclusively via Uber Eats. So if you want them to bring it right to you, go check them out on Uber Eats. It's my happy place. It's a place where I've spent countless hours, whether it's late at night or right when they open. There's sometimes lines for lunch right when they open their doors at Shawarma Palace. It is amazing to see the growth, but it really isn't that surprising when you look at what the quality of product they put out is. So if you want to have a great tasting sandwich, you want to go get a platter and feed your family of 12, you can all do that at Shawarma Palace because it has the freshest ingredients. You got the rice in there, you get the fresh salad, you get the roasted potatoes with the wonderful garlic sauce on top, and then get that halal chicken, get the beef, get the falafel, whatever you're into, they got something for you, and they got it at Shawarma Palace. So whether you go on Rideau Street, Bank and Hunt Club, Orleans, you're never too far from a Shawarma Palace. Let them know that Locked On Senators sent you, and hey, tweet a photo at us. I'd love to be jealous, and I'd love to see you enjoying your Shawarma Palace. So go check them out today. Shawarma Palace, Ottawa. Go eat like a royal. Go eat at Shawarma Palace. All right, Pillzy, before we get to our exit interviews, some Stanley Cup playoff chatter. And not only did the Toronto Maple Leafs lose out in Game 7 after mounting the Game 5, Game 6 comeback, history repeats itself and repeats itself, but the Vegas Golden Knights also out. They're done. Dallas gets the win. Sends a broad bowl, basically. You had Mark Stone, Michael Amadio on one side. You got Dadonov on the other side. You got Matt Duchene on the other side. I did kind of cringe when I saw Matt Duchene and Mark Stone shake hands because it just reminds me of that season, that 2018-19 season where they both got traded within hours of each other, or I guess it was a couple days, and Dzingel on there. Dzingel was like, you know that meme where it's like the three dragon heads and one's like all weird? That's it. That's him. But
Dzingel might have got the best trade return, ironically.
Duclair in 2 seconds, right? Yeah. 2 seconds for Dzingel, 1 second for Mark Stone. Ugh. We don't have to rehash that trade, but it was kind of poetic justice that the Vegas Golden Knights, who miraculously got 100% healthy right at the end of the season, that they ran in to probably the best team in the West, the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, and Ross, the Vegas Golden Knights got off to a 2-0 start, and Dallas was still able to charge back here. The one thing that needs to be talked about from this series, Pete DeBoer being 8-0 in Game 7s is insane. Ross, I know we're going to get to it, but
Are the Leafs going to offer him a $10 million contract, or what?
I have a new strategy for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Call Brinks, get them to have a Toronto Maple Leafs designed Brinks truck, drive it to Dallas, and back it up in Pete DeBoer's driveway, and just be like, whatever's in this truck, you can have it. Leave Dallas, come to Toronto to be the head coach because they need it. Ross, I said it. The Leafs, if it's 6 or less games, they could beat the Bruins. But if it goes to Game 7, they're cooked. And look at that, Game 7 overtime. And Jim Montgomery said, Pasternak's got to step it up. Well, how about stepping it up with a game-winning goal in overtime to beat the Leafs in Game 7? What a goal by Pasta.
It's just awesome to see. And what Pasta did there to kind of point, I don't know if you saw that angle, but he kind of pointed with his stick like, hey, I got to step on Marner in the neutral zone. And he told Lindholm, like, dump it in the corner and I'll go get it. Now, did they think it would be a perfect bounce like that and he could go forehand, backhand, and in? I don't know if you put a little truth serum in him, but it still looked beautiful. It was pretty goal too. And glad to see Boston move on. I think they're toast in this round. I got Florida in 6 games, but same. I also think that It was just, I didn't know just how much I wanted the Bruins to win until I stood up off the couch and fist pumped and immediately went to go see all the Leaf fans on Twitter. I was hoping that we would see more Leaf pile content. There wasn't a whole lot of it this year. It's almost like big Toronto media got in front of it and hid it from the world. So that's really sad. It's really unfortunate. We had a couple things here, and I'm just excited that the Ottawa Senators fans here, it's our Christmas, and just like Christmas, it happens every single year. So for them to finally win a round and then revert back to losing in the first round in the same fashion that they had before, it just warms the heart. I think they should run it back, keep the core four together. And I wanted to give credit to it. I'm scrolling through my likes like a madman right now, trying to find out who told me this. But Pillzy, do you know who was standing in the crease when the goal went in? Morgan Riley in the crease when the puck goes in the net. Just amazing theater as a Sens fan, being like, oh, well, it went in. You're not going to freak out or anything. Didn't speak to the media after the game. Mitch Marner did not speak to the media after the game. Interesting.
Tough. But Ross, I'm with you. Like, if you have a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs, you got to keep this core four together. Mitch Marner, that's a guy you want in the playoffs.
Yep.
John Tavares, a great captain. You want to keep him around for sure. So, yeah, definitely the Leafs got to keep this core together. They got to run it back.
They got to run it back.
What's Mike Babcock up to?
Now, did you see that? I'm so glad you brought that up. Did you see the tweet? Somebody said
no. I don't know about this.
So after the game, after Game 7, Jim Montgomery said that he got advice from Mike Babcock before the game.
Nice.
That's such just a kick in the teeth to Leafs fans out there. Yeah, Mike Babcock gave me some advice, and went in and beat you.
Babs is like, Jim, go to their locker room and check out their phones. That'll help you.
Yeah, last point, you mentioned Pete DeBoer's record 8-0 in Game 7s.
Insane.
Joe Pavelski is now 8-3 in 11 Game 7s as a player too.
Yeah, I mean Pavelski's probably been a part of most, if not all of those Game 7s for DeBoer, even going back to San Jose.
Exactly, and didn't really have an impact in this series. 0 points in 7 games for Joe Pavelski.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, pretty rare. Just shows you the depth on Dallas and what they were doing. Wyatt Johnston, stud, gets the goal. After the game, somebody I wish I could play the audio of it. Probably can't get away with that, but okay, I'll paraphrase. It was a guy who I think covers football usually. He goes, Wyatt Barry Sanders, the best running back in NFL history. I saw you do things on skates tonight that he couldn't do in cleats. What'd you have for dinner? That was his question. What'd you have for dinner?
Farm?
What'd you have for dinner? It was awesome. And Wyatt Johnston's like 21 years old. He was kind of like, chicken? That was awesome.
Sweet.
It was awesome. All right, so let's get some quick picks going, and then we'll get to our exit interviews in the third segment today. So we both have Florida in 6 games.
Yep.
You read off yours. I need to go quote tweet mine because I was looking like I was going to be just awful. And I think I bounced back to have like a respectable final of it. But I know you already tweeted out your pick. So who you got?
I got Panthers in 6, Rangers in 6, Oilers in 6, and Stars in 7.
Okay. I'm going to go with Edmonton in 5.
Ooh.
I think that Arthur Sheloff's a great story. I think going up against Connor McDavid's a little bit different.
Demko might come back in round 2. I'm not sure when, like if it's got to go a certain amount, but the rumor is he could be back.
Okay. I'm going to go with Colorado in 7.
Yeah, that series is going 7.
That's an amazing series. That's the number 1 series I think that I'm going to be locked in on. So I've got the Rangers in 5. I just believe in the Rangers, and I would have picked them before the series too. I know they got off to a 1-0 lead. I'm assuming it's because Madison Square Garden's just hard to book with the Knicks still in the playoffs as well. why the round 2 started before round 1 finished?
I think round 2 should get going before round 1 starts. Like, I don't think you need to wait the whole time. Otherwise, you got teams sitting there waiting when they already know who they're going to play.
Yeah, that's fair. Basketball's always just gone on, and I guess it works all right. I kind of like that. Hey, you can't start the second round till the first one's over. I like no more. I don't like jumping the gun like that. But anyways, we're into round 2 now. Exciting times. Hockey season's here. If you want to dive in on a team or two, go check out any of our Locked On shows on the whole network, and you can check out your team every day with local experts on the biggest stories. All right, on the other side, exit interviews, Brady Tkachuk, Shane Pinto. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monopoly Go. All right, game off. Look, we got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you guys are saying. Flag on the play, whistle. You want to challenge it. You guys already talked about that. I know, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. We got to let you know. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much you can get. They got unique stickers you can trade with your friends so you can complete albums for big prizes. They got cool new playing pieces to travel the board with. If you're sick of the hat, you can find other spots to jump around. Hilarious emojis for taunting your friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vault. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. They got new mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover on Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go.
All right, Pillzy. Our profiles here at the end of each season are available to you on YouTube. Hey, if you want to support the show, just put it all in a playlist and just let it ride. Hey, go have dinner. You already seen it. You already watched the show. Just throw it on. Let it ride. It does help the show, help the YouTube, all that. We really do appreciate all the support that we're getting despite the season being long over. However, tomorrow could be a very exciting day. The NHL draft lottery. Bob McKenzie is updating his top 15 rankings tomorrow. Scott Wheeler just updated his because the World Under 18s is over. Shout out Team Canada. Huge gold medal win. I'm sure that'll come up plenty as we do our prospect profiles that are beginning next week, Pillsy. We are 1 week away from draft profile season, but we got these exit interviews to get to first. All right, let's start our forward exit interviews with the captain, Brady Tkachuk. And after the season, I think Brady summed it up best. He's been in the league for 6 years and hasn't played a single meaningful game, a playoff game. He needs that. And the Sens fans need it too, because from the moment that Brady Tkachuk was drafted, all anyone could say was this guy is built for the playoffs. He's built for when the games mean more. He's built for when they're more physical, when the play around the net is at a premium. But what this guy is doing to will his team into victories, I think that Brady Tkachuk had a very impressive year. A couple weeks ago, we discussed who is the Senators MVP, and we settled on Brady Tkachuk. Why did we do that, Pillsy?
He's the face of this franchise, Ross. Not only is he the leader in points in 81 games, 37 goals, 37 assists. Nice. You love that for 74 points to lead the team. But he's a positive player, which is a lot of the top guys are not positive in plus minus, +1. First time in Brady's career he's been positive. And it's not like this guy just cherry picks, puts up points, and calls it a day, right? Like, he's among the leader in hits, in shots in the league, not just on the team, in the league. He's getting in scraps. He's racking up PIMs. He drags his team into the battle with him. And he's just the kind of captain that you look at when things aren't going well. He finds a way to up his game and try to bring the rest of his teammates with him. So I wish, Ross, that we could find some nitpicking points for Brady Tkachuk. Maybe you have some, but even though as a captain of a team, you want to lead your team to playoffs or at least lead your team to a better season than last year, and that didn't happen for Brady Tkachuk Senators this year, unfortunately, I don't have much to nitpick on this guy, as he's done everything, if not more, than I would have expected of a young captain leading this team.
He is not only the face of the franchise, but he's a guy who brings his teammates in a battle with them. He set a career high this year with 37 goals. He had 74 points, 37 assists. He was a plus player for the first time in his career, a +1. And when you talk about expected goals percentage at 5-on-5, second on the team to Shane Pinto. And they played together quite a bit down the stretch. So what I love about Brady Tkachuk, not only his drive to the net, but the physicality. Think to that game against New Jersey, fan appreciation night. Brady showed his appreciation by hammering out an NHL record 16 hits in one game. This guy was third in the National Hockey League this season in hits. And I think that needs to not go unnoticed, because to do that game in and game out, especially in meaningless games down the stretch, like that to me is just a huge feather in his hat. 294 hits, Pillzy, in 81 games this year. Only Garnet Hathaway and Jeremy Lauzon had more in the NHL. Now, on the flip side of that, we probably want him to be a little bit lower in penalty minutes. He was also second in the NHL in penalty minutes this year. Only Liam O'Brien had more with the Arizona Coyotes. So that's one area where it's like, I know a lot of the times he's bringing someone with him, and that doesn't, it should actually kind of affect it a little bit, because in 4-on-4, he's probably not your main guy anyways. But for him, here it is. I got the stat. He took 38 penalties this year, but out of the guys in the top 10, only him and Garnet Hathaway have a plus net differential. So he drew 7 more penalties than he took.
Okay.
So at least, even though he's second in the league in PIMS, he's not putting his team shorthanded. Heck, he's actually got Ottawa more power plays than he has taken away.
Yeah, and as long as you can stay on the right side of that, that's good. And we have applauded Brady for doing a better job of not just fighting scrubs on other teams just to kind of defend his honor. Like, I know there's a lot of fourth liners that try to come at Brady and, try to bait him into fighting them. And I think before, he didn't want to back down from a challenge. He wanted to say, like, all right, if you want, who wants it, I'll give it to them. But at a certain point of time in your career, and we talked to his dad about this, Walt Tkachuk, he's got to find better ways to pick his spots. And I think throughout the year, he did a better job of that. And I think that really helped him stay focused on staying on the ice and scoring points for this team. Because sure, we talked about the physicality, Ross, but again, he led this team in points. I feel like sometimes people forget how important he is offensively. He's not just a physical guy. This team relies on him to put up points. And the amount of times that Brady Tkachuk should have gotten unofficial assists by screening the goalie, by creating chaos that leads to a rebound, that leads to a great chance for a teammate, like those little things that don't always show up on the stat sheet that he does really well, that pisses opponents off and makes it easier on his line mates to find open space and get the puck. Those are some of the things that Brady does absolutely better than anyone.
If all centermen are healthy going into next season, who would you start next to Brady Tkachuk? Because he played quite a bit with Shane Pinto down the stretch. Last year, he played quite a bit with Tim Stützle, and otherwise, he's played with Josh Norris almost exclusively before that.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look at all the line stats this year, Ross. I don't have those pulled up right now, but part of me thinks I would run it back with the kid line. Brady, Norris, Batherson, and have Giroux stick with Stützle. And then we got to find that elusive top 6 forward that, since they traded away Tarasenko, they haven't been able to find a guy in the mix to fit on that line. So I love the idea of keeping Brady, Norris, and Batherson together.
Okay, I almost like keeping the line that finished the year together, and that's Drake Batherson, Brady Tkachuk, and Shane Pinto down the middle. If there's one thing about Brady Tkachuk is that I know this guy's going to be pissed off with the way the season ended, and I hope that he brings that energy into the start of next season when it's going to be the utmost importance for the Senators' first 25 games. That's the thing. Like, they've had a good first 10 games, Brady included, and then there's that dip after the first one. Keep the energy up and keep pushing. And I do have faith that Brady Tkachuk can lead this team to the playoffs. All right. Shane Pinto, exit interview. Should we do this half length? Shane Pinto missed the first half of the season after that stupid suspension before the season related to gambling. And with that, he comes back. Immediate impact for him. When the team wins, usually Shane Pinto is all over the score sheet. Shane Pinto's season, I think, can be considered in two ways. One, a failure that he wasn't able to play more than 41 games, but two, extremely impressive that in those 41 games, Pinto puts up 9 goals, 18 assists for 27 points, and is a +9 on this Ottawa Senators team. He also led the team with expected goals percentage at 5-on-5 with 57.4%. This guy, top to bottom, he's a hockey player. Two ends of the ice, penalty kill, power play. He's got that perfect bumper spot location where he's able to just find that quiet area in the middle of the ice. And I hope he's a Senator for years to come. At the time of this recording, it's egregious to me that he doesn't have a contract when they had all of last year to negotiate it. They ultimately settle on that 1-year league minimum contract, but like, they had to have discussed different possibilities. I don't want to get bogged down with the contract stuff, but Shane Pinto's a very important player on this team, and he needs to be treated as such, in my opinion.
Yeah, it can't be understated how important Pinto is this year. Although, Ross, I feel like any contract negotiations they were having before the season kind of get wiped clean with what happened, unfortunately, and they had to start fresh with that 1 year, basically league minimum deal. It is kind of crazy that they haven't figured this out, though, because that's the one big looming contract that they need to take care of here is Shane Pinto. And for a guy that usually when you see a guy with 41 games played, if it's not a lockout season or COVID season, it's because of a major injury. And those guys have to figure out ways to jump back into the game here. Well, Shane Pinto was healthy this entire time. That's what makes it so different. So you're fully healthy. You're a guy in your early 20s. How do you stay properly motivated so that when he's ready to get back into action, he can seamlessly transition? I don't know how Shane Pinto did that, Ross, but whatever he did a great job of it, because this wasn't a guy that he's inserted into the lineup and you thought, okay, he's going to need 10 games to get going here. Well, maybe you did think that, but it didn't appear that way. Like, he kind of got going right away and was making an impact and fit into this lineup nicely. And you mentioned it. At one point, this guy was the Ottawa Senators' #1 center, and he continuously finds himself in spots where he wouldn't necessarily think he was going to be, and the team wouldn't want him in that spot. I think the team wants him as a third-line center, and Shane Pinto probably wants to be a middle six center, either a second line or a third line center. And he's capable of doing that. And I think it's just about finding him the right line mates. I did like him with Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson. I thought that line worked nicely. And if you're Shane Pinto right now, you're looking at centerman above you in Josh Norris, who's had injury troubles, Tim Stützle, who had some injury concerns this year. And Shane Pinto, he played all 82 last year, and then he played all 41 eligible games he was able to this year. So this guy has been given kind of a clean bill of health since his shoulder issues. And if he can stay healthy, it's not that crazy to say that he might be one of the Senators' most impactful players when it comes to wins and losses.
If you look at it from lines that played at least 75 minutes together throughout the season, Shane Pinto's the centerman on 2 of the top 3 lines.
Yeah.
I think that tells you quite a bit about the way that he's able to impact the game. One was with Tkachuk and Tarasenko, the other obviously with Tkachuk and Batherson on there. So when he's on the ice, it's a positive impact play. And you look at it, he had the injury concerns when he missed most of the season with that shoulder injury. Well, he played the full 82 last year and his full 41 this year. So he's on an Ironman bit of a rush right now, obviously with that gap in between, but he's able to kind of stay in the zone and stay healthy. And I think those are all hugely important as well. And if you look at it, like almost identical goal per game output, had 9 and 41, 20 and 82, already with more assists than he had last year in half the amount of games, and was on pace to almost double his point total, getting on the plus side of things and still not taking very many penalties. He finished the year with 7 minor penalties in 41 games. He's clutch. He comes in the faceoff circle above 50%. A lot of 31 block shots. I think that's a step up. Only had 49 and 82 last year. Just the trajectory is just straight up to me for the last couple of years. And remember, we talked about it going from when he was drafted. We're still doing the show, Pillzy, and it was about how he hadn't played competitive hockey for that long. Yeah. Well, now he has. The hockey sense is there. Clearly, the athleticism's there and everything else. I just want to see a full, healthy season of Shane Pinto on a 5-year deal. 6-year deal for me would be perfect. I know Pillsy's a bridge deal guy, but what we can agree on in the middle is that this guy is important to the success of the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, there's no denying that at all. And Ross, we talked about all his on-ice attributes. I feel like this guy is a big piece of this team off the ice as well, right? Like we always joke about how Shane Pinto can't make it 10 seconds into a press interview without laughing at himself or letting out a giggle or something. But this guy I feel like he's just one of those guys that is able to keep things light. And for an Ottawa Senators team that has had bad year after bad year, a lot of these guys are getting salty. He's able to kind of lighten the mood and have that youthful exuberance that still keeps things fun and keeps things like, he said it himself. He loves being here. He loves being with the boys. And that's just what he brings to a locker room, is that sense of camaraderie. So I think he's obviously an important player on the ice, but I don't think it can be overlooked how important he might be off the ice as well.
Let us know in the comments your thoughts on Shane Pinto's season with the Ottawa Senators. What kind of contract do you think he should get going forward? And who are his ideal line mates? Also want to hear from you on that. Wherever you get your podcasts, we are available. We are your team every day. All right, we'll get back to more exit interviews over the coming days. But Pillzy, we are 24 hours away. A bit more. We're about 30 hours away from the NHL draft lottery, and we are not doing the spins on the draft night, thank goodness, because the way that we've done it, one spin every day for us and for the citizens, and we have just fallen so short, Pillsy. I'm just going to pull it right up so everyone can see how bad it's been. 1 first overall pick, we've had 4 second overall picks, and a whole lot in the 7, 8, 9 range. I'm going to add a 4th column for tomorrow, and we'll total up what we got in each one. But we're going to do one spin here, as we have for the last couple weeks, to wrap up the show. And tomorrow it's going to be vibe check time. It's going to be how you feeling? Everything okay? Let's go. Senators, by the way, have never won a draft lottery. When they got 3rd overall, that was with the San Jose pick. So in these 7 years of missing the playoffs, I know 1 year, even the year they lost their pick, they had first. They were dead last, and they had the 4th pick. Bowen Byram went to Colorado because they lost the draft lottery once, twice, 3 times. So I'm not saying they're due, like Drew Doughty was to win the Norris in 2016, but I'm not saying that they're not due to get the 1st or 2nd overall picks in this upcoming NHL draft. All right, Pillsy, you're up first.
Do it.
This is brutal.
Okay.
No, it's brutal. Detroit moves up 10 spots, Pillsy.
Yeah, but I mean, picking 5th overall.
Yeah,
it's not great. It's not great.
So Ottawa moves down. I know you're trying to make your pick sound better. It's okay, buddy.
Yeah, I was.
You got 8th overall. That's all right. You got 8th overall. I'm coming up here clutch. 2nd overall. Let's go. Woo! I needed that so badly. 2nd overall. Columbus jumps up into 1st. So I like that for me. That's the 2nd time I've gotten number 2. So that's good. Maybe the Citizens can bring us home here with the win. Maybe the Citizens can bring us home here. Again, number 2. This, to me, this would be almost the most ideal.
Yep. Lock it in.
So San Jose first.
Yep.
Ottawa second. We got 2 second overall. That's good omen.
Good vibes. Yep.
Good omen. I like that, with 2 days until the draft lotteries. We're recording this bright and early on Monday morning. So we got all Monday, all Tuesday to wait. And Tuesday night, we will get the NHL draft lottery. We will have full reaction here on Locked On Senators, your team every day. I can't wait for that. Pillzy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Yes, I have final thoughts prepared for once. Shout out to Steve and Stacy at the Belleville Senators game. There's no Ubers in Belleville, which is surprising. Just no cars driving around. So I was sitting there at the end of the game being like, I'm going to have to wait for all these people to clear out. And then I'm going to have to try to get a taxi to come pick me up, which feels like you're living in the Stone Age, Ross, calling a taxi these days. It's been a while since I've had to do that. So I was just hanging out in the stands, waiting for everyone to clear out. Steve and Stacy were chatting with me, and I let them know, I got to wait for a cab. They're like, oh, we'll bring you home. So I really appreciate that show. So shout out Steve and Stacy for giving me a ride back from the arena to my hotel.
The friendly city lives up to its name.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Love that. And hopefully you can get back to Belleville, which would mean that they are able to win 2 of the next 3 games. Belleville's next game coming up on Wednesday. So big week, man. We got draft lottery Tuesday, Belleville on Wednesday, Belleville on Friday for sure. And hopefully Saturday. If they win Wednesday, then hopefully not Saturday.
Sure.
But we will continue to cover that, and we'll keep going with our exit interviews throughout the week. Draft profiles are on their way starting next week. For today, we say goodbye. Thanks so much for watching, listening, engaging with the show on social media at Sens Central. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.